we're going to go ahead and get started because this is going to be a fun conversation today. Thank you all for coming here. Anybody first time at the UC? Great. Welcome. Would love for you guys after this. See Trey McCoy in the back there. Trey? There he is. He's our membership and facilities manager. He'd love to give you a tour. This is an awesome building. We've been here about 11 years. Building's almost 100 years old, but this is home for Nashville's entrepreneurs. So no matter where you are on that journey, we think we've got something. We hope we've got something that can help you on that path to whatever those goals that you have are for your company. We're going to hear from somebody today who has been able to do a lot, achieve a lot, start a lot. It's going to be a fun conversation. We do these once a month. We do a lot of cool stuff here, made possible by a lot of friends of ours. So I'm going to have a couple announcements, then we're going to jump into our conversation today with Tonya. So first up is our friends at Dell, and so quick word from them.
Sponsor of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. Dell for Startups is a program from Dell Technologies that helps entrepreneurs launch, grow, and scale their startups by providing resources, tech expertise, and scalable technology solutions. Some of the key benefits include a dedicated technology advisor who is local to Nashville, discounts and promotions on select Dell products and services, and access to our vast portfolio of products. For any questions on how to access these benefits, visit dell.com/startups or contact your dedicated Dell for Startups point of contact.
So a big thanks to Dell for sponsoring all of our community events. We do about one a week, and so Dell is our community partner. If you've got questions about any of their products, you're growing, you're wondering what's the best hardware, Joy, who is our local representative, she's around a lot. Her info is on the table there as well, so take one of those. We also couldn't do this without our growth partners, and so Pinnacle is our banking growth partner, CLA for accounting, Baker Donaldson for legal, RJ Young for technology. These are folks who partner with us to help you. So if you have questions in any of these categories as you grow your idea, let us know. Trey can connect you with those folks. Anybody on our team can do that. So again, they want to partner with you to help you reach those goals. Also, friend partner of ours is Launch Tennessee and their InvestTN platform. So if you go to investtn.org or scan this QR code, if you are looking to raise money for your Tennessee-based startup, they want to hear about it. And so they take an equity position in your company after due diligence, of course. They're not just handing these things out. But their idea is to spur more growth in Tennessee-based startups. So visit their website to learn more. We can also help you with that application. And so if you have any questions about that, see anybody on our team, we can get you resourced as you apply for those funds. They do require a match. So once you go through their process, again, we can connect you to other capital providers if equity capital is something you need to grow your idea. Like I said, we do these events often. A couple things we've got coming up. So next week, we have something about go-to-market fundamentals. We're talking about sales next Tuesday, June 11th, in the afternoon in this room. So if you have questions about that, please come, listen, participate in that workshop. We have Dell Day coming up on June 20th. We've got a lot of things coming up on June 20th. We're just packing them all in one day. It's awesome. We had to move our normal Lunch and Learn. Our Lunch and Learn panels are normally on the second Tuesday, but this one is such a rock star group. To make it all work, we had to shift it a week. So June 20th is definitely the day you want to be here. We've got Dell Day. We've got a panel that's all about parenting while entrepreneuring. So how do you do both? Can you do both? Do you want to lose your mind doing both? We're going to talk about it. So an awesome panel. And then that's also when we have our monthly happy hour. So please come out and enjoy that. If you've never co-worked from here, you can do that at the end of the month on the fourth Thursday of every month, June 27th this month. Learn all about our events at ec.co. Also, when you go to our website, visit ec.co/careers. And so we have 2 open jobs right now. And so please check those out. One is our entrepreneurial support manager. You're going to get to work alongside Trey, with Mira, everybody on our community team to help recruit members, help grow our membership base, help match them with advisors, again, pair them with the resources that they need. We also have an opening for our fintech manager. So one of our accelerators is in the fintech sector, and so we are looking currently for a program manager for fintech. Also happening, coming up in October, are our Next Awards. So this is where we honor Nashville's entrepreneurs. We also induct our annual Hall of Fame honorees at that event. The event's on October 21st, but right now we're looking for nominations, or your company can apply to be awarded. So we have different categories, different awards that we're giving out that night for companies that, again, are in the Middle Tennessee area. So an awesome thing. Check that out. Scan that code to learn more. The last thing I'll also mention real quick before we get to why we do these series. In flight. So we have one accelerator open for applications right now. The deadline is this Friday, tomorrow that is. So go to ec.co/apply. If you've got a company that is looking to grow, you're looking to achieve a major goal, an idea, In Flight is for you. It's a program we've been running for a while now. We'll be doing this for the second time this calendar year, but we've run it several times before. A lot of great stuff that founders have to say about that. Over 12 weeks, we run you through a lot of the fundamentals of really growing your business. So you do need to be existing. You've already got some sales. You've got a small team, and you just need the elements, the ideas, the education to grow. Check out In Flight. So ec.co/apply to check that out. Why do we do this series? So here's what the data says. Number one, you are destined to fail usually if you decide to start a company. So welcome to that club. 50-50 shot after 5 years that you're going to be out of business, especially if it's your first time. But the research shows that the more times you do this, the better you get. So your second time, third time, again, until your 7th, 10th venture, you increase the odds of success. So we could look at that one of two ways here at the EC. We could say, well, just go ahead and fail a bunch of times and eventually you'll figure it out. And for some of you, that may just happen. Or we could maybe hear from someone who's done it more than once. Ups, downs, all arounds. Maybe there's something you'll hear today that can prevent one of those mistakes, especially a fatal one when it comes to your business. So my guest today, get up here, Tonya. This is a friend of mine. We've known each other for a while. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But Tonya Lewis, bring it in. Bring it in. Everybody give Tonya a warm welcome. Just grab the seat over there. There's your mic. So Tonya is a serial entrepreneur. She's going to get a chance to tell you about herself. But we met in past lives. Not like metaphysically. But you were a school counselor, yes?
Yes. I worked at Ravenwood High School. And through a mutual friend of Sam and I, we connected. And as anybody that knows Sam knows, he has such a dynamic personality. And he was one of the only speakers that I invited to come out to the school that actually captivated our students. He wrote them in. It was like 4. Not everybody can hear that.
Press the mute button. Press that button. Just press that button.
This one? Hello? Oh.
You can start over.
Wow.
You can start over. She was complimenting me. This is the only reason I invite these people out.
Wow. Okay, I didn't
say
know.
good things about
I thought
me.
my voice was
keep my job.
projecting. I was not even aware. So I met Sam, I would say back in 2010 when I worked at Ravenwood High School. I was over a group of students who were ambassadors for the school, and we were looking for dynamic speakers to come in and talk to the students about just about life, about, what to expect once you leave high school and go out into the big, vast world. And so Sam came and spoke to our students, and I think I really got hooked immediately because of how engaging he was with the students and how it was like they were at the edge of the seat listening to every single thing that he had to say. So Sam, they were captivated, but I was captivated at the same time.
And it began a beautiful friendship that still
Yes,
exists
absolutely.
to this day.
And
It consists of each of us giving each other a hard time most of the time. So we're going to get into that.
He gives me a hard time.
But the first question I always ask folks in this is, tell us, who was the first entrepreneur you ever knew, you ever met, you ever remember being around, however young you were? Who was the first entrepreneur you knew?
So there's two. I guess I have to say the first one, if I'm being... My grandfather. My grandfather was a pastor at a church, and it was a small missionary Baptist church in South Nashville, which is now known as Chestnut Hills. It was not known as that back in the day. But my grandfather was a pastor, but he also owned a small demolition company that he ran, and my uncles worked for him. And so he was the first person that I actually got to see as an entrepreneur. And then my dad, who came along, and he's my stepdad, but he was my father since the age of 3, and he was an arborist. And he was known all around the town before he passed as the tree man, because he was able to scale trees and top trees and do all the things landscaping-wise that people needed. So I got to see him.
And did that then sort of link those people you had in your life to the first entrepreneurial thing you did? So maybe not an official company, legally speaking and actually a business. But was there something you did early on, or when was the first entrepreneurial endeavor that you remember undertaking?
My dad always made me work for my money. Like he said, if you want something, you have to work for it. And so I started working at 3 years old. And I remember, so there's a picture that I have at my house, and when people come in, they look at it, and they were like, you look like this little serious girl staring at the camera. I was very stoic, staring straight at the camera, and I had my 2 sisters on either side of me, and I was holding them. And I was like, wow. Like, I was already sort of at that age kind of mothering my siblings. But he used to, I remember this very vividly, he would go cut trees, and he would say, if you want money, you got to go pick up, leaves or rake leaves or do whatever I need you to do. Otherwise, you're not going to get paid. And so I started doing that. And then my first real job was at the age of 8. I cleaned houses, for wealthy people, because we were by no means wealthy. And I just had a sense of pride. Like, I knew that if I wanted something, I just had to work for it. I had that get up and go attitude about, and that drive and determination that if I want something, I got to work for it.
And how did that then shape at 8 from high school, college? Tell us about that journey, because then that led you to being a high school counselor, which a lot of people would say was not entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. So talk about that pathway before then leaving that world and starting your first business.
So I will tell people this because there's no embarrassment about this for me. But when I was in the 9th grade, my father was diagnosed with lung cancer. And it was very traumatic for me. And so my dad was the breadwinner in our household, and he took care of everything. He paid the bills, he did everything. And my mom was a homemaker, so she stayed at home. She took care of us as the kids. So she really didn't have a trade that she worked. And there was a lot of discord in our house. And so in the 9th grade, when my dad developed cancer, I took it upon myself to take care of him. And so 9th, 10th, 11th, I went to school, but in the 11th grade, I dropped out. And it was primarily because I had to work. I had to earn money because he was no longer around. And I worked hard. Like, it didn't matter if I worked my first job was actually Sonic on Clarksville Highway. It didn't matter if I was flipping burgers, if I was cleaning houses, if I was delivering groceries. It was just ingrained in me that you can't get what you want if you're not willing to put in the work to get it. And so I met a boyfriend when I was 18 years old, and he was on a different path than I was. He was on a path going to law school, and I was a high school dropout. And he saw the potential within me and encouraged me to go back to school, which I actually did. I got a GED. And then I went to Nashville State, and then TSU, and then I went to Vanderbilt for graduate school. And I just always wanted to be a support to other people who were coming along after me, who had gone through some of the same experiences as me. And so my natural inclination was to go into counseling as a profession, because I just wanted to be there for other people. I just wanted for other people to know that there is somebody in this world that could love them unconditionally, with positive regard, and encourage them. And so that was what I did. I studied human development and counseling at Vanderbilt, and then Ravenwood High School was my first job, my first real career, I should say.
And how long did you do that?
How did I do what?
How long were you at Ravenwood?
I was at Ravenwood for 7.5 years. So I started with them before I graduated from Vanderbilt. I did a practicum, and then I transitioned into the position because there was a vacancy by the time I actually graduated. So I stayed.
And so why did you decide to leave that? Because especially hearing how you grew up, especially your high school years, how hard you had to work, I assume you put as much energy into working with your students. You've got a stable job. You've got a salary. You work for this. You've got the degrees. But then one day you're just like, let's go roll the dice. Let's go start a business.
Yeah. So I was tenured as a counselor within the school district, which was huge because it guaranteed that I would be able to stay. Like I had some longevity. But in 2012, I applied for a grant through ING for the school, and it was to start multicultural programming for the school district, really for Ravenwood High School, and I won this grant. And I started developing this programming, and it was really to highlight the cultural diversity within Williamson County, because though it's a very affluent community, there is a lot of diversity there, and a lot of people just don't see it. And so I was like, how do we bring that to the forefront of this community, and specifically within the school? And so I applied for that grant, won it, and then it just sort of started to snowball, and I started meeting the most creative and beautiful and spirited students who were doing amazingly creative things. And it just sparked within me this desire that there was something more for my life, and not that being a school counselor wasn't a great profession. It's just that I wanted something more in my life. And I was like, well, I kind of weighed the pros and cons. I was like, I can stay and be secure, or I can go out there and take a risk. And that's what I decided to do. And so in 2013, I opened the Post Cafe in East Nashville, and that was my first business.
So you go from this stability, we can call it, of a tenured school job, winning grants, doing great work that you love, to saying, all right, let's go open a coffee shop. And so what was that thought process? What did other people say? Did you ever think, were there moments especially, and then tell us about the Post too, why you wanted to bring that to market in the way that you did, where you did, for folks who may not be familiar.
I would say that there was a lot of fear. I think whenever you're thinking about doing something new, especially as an adult, right? Like, you get set on a course, everything's going great, you feel comfortable, life is good, and then you're ready to pull the carpet from underneath your own feet, and it's like, and I had examples of people that were entrepreneurs. My grandfather and my father were great role models, but they didn't do business like the type of business I was trying to move into. You know what I'm saying? It was like a family-owned business. This was different. And so I started doing research on my own, where I would go to all these different coffee shops, and I would sit and I would study the menu, and I would watch people and see how people were interacting in the space, and what did people like, what did it seem like people didn't like, what did I like, what did I not like. And so after doing the research and going around to these different places and engaging with different people, my husband, he said, if this is something that you really, really want to do, then I'll support it. But you gotta demonstrate that through, you gotta have a business plan, and you gotta think through all the details. And I think he thought I was joking, because I said it, and a lot of people say what they want to do, they don't do it. But I handed him a 60-page plan, and I said, here is my plan. And so he, and thank God, him and his family, they supported us. They gave us the capital to get started with it. We found a space. Christian Paro, who's an amazing entrepreneur himself, who is all about small business, he was like, hey, we have a space in East Nashville. The community is ripe for that. People are asking for it in the community meetings. So we would love to have you here. And so we met Christian and planted our roots, and was there for 5.5 years. And I sold it November of 2019 to Frothy Monkey.
And so what was the concept that you brought to life? You looked at all these other coffee shops, you looked at the menu, you hear about what's needed in East Nashville. So tell folks who didn't get a chance to go to it, which again, I heard somebody woo earlier, so there are Post
Peter.
Fans, great, okay, right. So what was the Post? And what made it different?
So what I felt was missing was, I don't want to put people on blast. The quality of the food that I was, the quality of the food, it felt processed. There was a lot of like taking things out of packaging and putting it in an oven and heating it up. I wanted good quality food. And I wanted it made from scratch with good ingredients, from local ingredients. And I wanted smoothies, and I wanted juices, and I wanted them to be organic and cold pressed. And I couldn't find that anywhere in the city at the time. And so I was like, well, if I want it, why don't I just create it? And so what we did was specialize in gluten-free and vegan foods. For a lot of people that have diet issues or was just wanting something that they could, food that they could trust, that was good for them and good for their bodies, I wanted to focus on that. So everything we did was in-house. All biscuits, jams, ketchup was all made from scratch. We didn't buy anything at all that was packaged, other than our condiments, which was like mustard and things like that, but and some butter. But that was the extent of what we sourced out from other places.
And how did it go? People loved it. People liked it. People showed up.
They showed up. Yeah, we had a lot of success. In that neighborhood, I don't know if you all are familiar with East Nashville, but we were on the corner of 17th and Fatherland. And what we were was walkable for that community. We were a community hub. We supported a lot of other local businesses. We tried to, we offered our space for free to people that wanted to come in and lead groups or workshops and things like that, because a lot of times the barrier to being able to do business sometimes is just having space to be able to do those things. So we opened our space up for those purposes. We had bluegrass brunch. We were known for that. We had some great musicians come through and play. And it was just it was a family-friendly atmosphere, and we were all about community and all about, again, supporting local and just, being that community, anchor for a lot of people.
So then why'd you sell it?
I was burnt out. Hospitality is hard. It's hard. It was me. My husband said he would partner with me, but he really didn't. It was really me by myself. And I would say 3 years into it, I was like, oh, this is really hard. Like, getting started was hard, but it was fun and exciting because you're doing something new. It's great. Ooh, all the fireworks are going off, community's showing up. But then year 3, employees not showing up, things breaking, money you have to spend that you don't account for. There were times when we were like, I never paid myself for my business because I felt like I needed to continuously keep that money invested in the business. And people were like, well, why are you doing it? And I'm like, because I love it. But I wasn't really taking care of myself in the process of doing the business. And so it just became taxing. And people were asking me to scale. They were like, hey, we want you to open up in this neighborhood, and we want you over here. And it sounded so appealing, and it sounded so much fun. And I became a local celebrity. People would recognize me. It was great. Woo, I would be out. People come up. And it felt good, but it was, deep down inside, I was suffering. I was not happy. And I was ready to divorce the business 3 years in. And really by year 5, I was over it. And I don't even want to sugarcoat that. I was over it. But I wanted to sell it to the best person. I wanted someone to come in and take over the business that cared about community, that cared about giving back. And fortunately, I met Ryan Pruitt, who is one of the owners of Frothy Monkey. And he said, hey, we're looking for an East Nashville spot. We'd love to take it over. And so fortunately, we were able to transition it effortlessly to them.
So then what did you do? That was 2019, you said, the fall of 2019. Then what was next for you?
So while I was revving down one business, I was revving up another business. And so August of 2019, I co-launched NuSachi a hemp company that was vertically integrated, and we produced white and private label products for small to medium-sized retail brands. And so I launched that business with Mark Montgomery, who is a serial entrepreneur himself, and we hit the ground running. We raised capital, and then the market tanked at the end of 2020, and the hemp business plummeted. So we somehow miraculously made it through all of the turmoil to keep the business afloat. And we had staff, we had people, we had customers, we had a little momentum, but we were not growing and scaling at the rate that we needed to make a return on investment for our investors. So we knew we had to pivot, and we knew we had to make some hard, firm decisions. And so I started out as the CEO of the company, and in Mark's words, not his words for this specifically, but he used to say, I always feel like I'm over my skis. I was over my skis. I was like CEO, going from a counseling position and owning a business to CEO of a company where you're raising capital. I was not prepared for the amount of responsibility that came along with that. And then I said, hey, Mark, I cannot do this. So he was like, okay, what do you feel most comfortable doing? So I moved into the marketing position, chief marketing officer. I thought that was a great fit. And I was like, nope, not a great fit for me either. And so then I transitioned and became the chief relationship officer, because that's what I do best. I'm good with people. And so that fit me well, but I still was not happy. Like, my gauge for what I want to do is always by what brings me joy. And even though I loved what we were doing and it brought us some success, I honestly was not happy. And so I decided in 2021 that I was going to step away from the company and just support the company on the board. And we brought in a new CEO for the company, Drea, and Drea was the best fit. She just knew business. She knew it better than I did. And I had no pride. I knew that, in order for us to succeed, sometimes you just have to be aware of what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And I had no pride whatsoever. And so she stepped in and formed a subsidiary for the company called Better Than Booze, which is the brand that you see here on the table. And Better Than Booze is become the goal. I mean, it's reaching platinum standard now. But Drea was able to, grow this brand, and we are, it's becoming the beverage of choice for a lot of people who are looking for a alcohol alternative. So I think it was a good move on my part to step out of the way.
So tell folks what's on the table. So these are gifts from Tonya, from NuSachi, from Better Than Booze to you.
Yes.
Don't go pound a case of these, because they don't have alcohol, but tell us what's in them and tell them how people can take them home and enjoy them responsibly.
Yeah.
But talk about this and how it has grown. And again, I think your only request is if you take a case with you, take a selfie with it later, right? So anyway, but tell us about this product, what people need to know about it, because again, this isn't just something to have a couple with lunch necessarily.
So when I say it's an alcohol alternative, people who are wanting a mocktail, some people still want to have, a little bit of a buzz. They don't like the hangover effects. So it does have CBD and THC in it. And the percentage of THC is within the legal limits. It's less than 3%. So you can partake in this comfortably. It's not gonna, for people that are afraid of it's gonna get you, I always hear people ask the question, well, what am I gonna feel? I would say it's equivalent to drinking a wine cooler, for the people back in the day that used to have wine coolers. Anybody in here have a wine cooler before? Okay. We had wine coolers back in the day, but it was our alcohol. It was alcohol, but it was an alternative to drinking beer and all the other things. But anyways, it has the same effects. It's really soothing and relaxing. And we have several different flavors on the table. I think we have ginger mule, grapefruit paloma, mint mojito, and gin and tonic. And so Drea intentionally made the beverages similar to what people are naturally accustomed to drinking when they go out and have an alcoholic beverage.
Fantastic. Yeah, so again, take them, enjoy them responsibly. Any that's left over, we'll have them at our happy hour on the 20th. So you can try them then if you want to wait. So I've got two more questions, and then we're going to open it up. And then Tanya's also offered to stay after and have any conversations that folks want to talk about. So you told us about the process with going from the post, selling it, but no time off, ramping it up. Let's partner with another well-known, successful Nashville entrepreneur to hit the gas pedal, raise capital, launch a brand, pivot the brand. You sort of still involved, but rotate out of kind of active leadership of that. Mm-hmm. Two more questions. One, what are you doing now?
So, as I was sort of rubbing down from NuSachi, I took a little bit of a break just to think about and reflect on what I really wanted to get into next, because I am 48 and I'm sort of entering into this next phase of life, and to me, I'm trying to prioritize happiness. And so in 2017, my husband and I, we started thinking about buying land, and I had been visiting a piece of property in the Goodlettsville area a friend of mine owned, and I would go there, meditate, sit, and just, get quiet. And we actually bought the land in 2021, and I kind of sat on it for a little bit thinking, oh, I want to open a retreat center, and I want to do, I want to build some cabins. But then there was one day I was sitting out there by myself, and I had this sort of, I call it the divine download, where I was like, land, what do you want to be? And there were birds flying overhead, and there was like the wind rustling the trees. And it came to me so vividly. It was like a farm. And I was like, really? Like a farm? I don't have a farming background, so I didn't even know where that came from, where that thought came from. But the more I started doing spending more time on the land and getting to know the land, it just started to make sense. And so I'm a researcher. So I started like digging into the information, like, how do you start a farm? And so I looked up, the USDA, went to the USDA website, started reading all that information, and it was confusing. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I started making phone calls and talking to people. And there was a gentleman by the name of Trevor Hunt, who works for the Natural Resource and Conservation Services Department, which is an agency of the USDA. And people kept telling me, you need to get to know Trevor. You need to get to know Trevor if you're on this journey. And so the first thing I did was I did a forest management plan, which in people that own land, the USDA and the federal government will allow you, if you have over, I think it's like 15 acres, that you can you can do a forest management plan, and you can also use that to help reduce your property taxes. So we did that, and I was like, okay, so it's starting to move. Like, you see how you start to like do things one thing at a time. You're like, I'm putting one foot in front of the other. And then I'm talking to people, and I'm having conversations with people, telling them what it is that I want to do, and they're introducing me to people. And so ultimately, Trevor came out and visited the property, and he has been in farming. He's an African-American male, which in the farming space, minority, or BIPOC, I should say, women and youth are underrepresented and underserved. And so that which made it even more important for me, I should say, for him to come and visit and talk to me. So he came out, we walked the land, I shared the vision, and he said, you should apply for a grant. And I was like, okay, I'll apply for it. He said, no, there's one that's coming up now called Equity and Conservation, and you definitely should apply for it. It's the last year that you can apply for it. Apparently they had other years before that you could apply for it, but it was money that was passed down to the federal government to help people who are interested in reaching communities of color, BIPOC individuals, to help them get into the farming space. And so I said yes, but I did not realize that the grant was due 2 weeks after he said that after this. And so because I committed to it, I spent 2 weeks and I did not leave my house, and I applied for the grant. And I did not know if I was going to win it or not, because I had heard stories about applying for USDA grants and how difficult it is. But a turn of fate, I won it. I won it. Yeah. I won it. And so I put together a plan, and my plan was to create a school that would not only teach me about farming, but I would bring other people who are also interested in learning how to farm alongside me to learn as we build a farm in real time. So that is what I'm working on now. I'm developing it's called the Wonderful People Microfarm.
Where can people learn about it?
You can go to wpmicrofarm.com. You can follow us on Instagram. Our website right now is up, but we're going to have more content coming online here in another couple weeks. I won this grant in October of last year, and I just started receiving the funds, so we've really been going at this since March. So there's a lot of things that I'm doing in real time, trying to make sure things keep moving along. So if you can follow us and on Instagram or any other socials, that would be helpful, so you can stay abreast of what we have going on and get involved. Because there will be workshops that you can participate in and events that we will be hosting for the community as a whole.
All right, my last question, then we'll open it up. It seems throughout this journey, you could have stopped at any point, or you could have maybe been stuck, I guess, at certain points, maybe you were, in a certain emotion that I'm gonna name in a second. Because I think when people talk about entrepreneurship and their journey, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of optimism, there's a lot of hope. There's all these positive things that we pair with this journey of entrepreneurship. And a lot of times, very quickly, you also see there's all those opposites. And so it's stressful, and I'm infuriated sometimes. I'm disappointed. This didn't work like I thought. I can become pessimistic. Yeah. But one word, as you're telling me your story, it seems like at any point you could have just stopped and been really sad. And the word sadness is not one that I hear in entrepreneurial circles, either on the very positive side of things, the very negative side of emotions, if you want to put them in on those two binaries. So tell me about sadness, because it seems like you could have mourned the selling or the closing or the transition of the Post. This community, but again, you talked about your burnout, but gosh, there's this community place. It filled a need for so many people. So there's that idea. Hey, but then I was going to be this high-powered, capital-raising female CEO in this exciting new space, but man, I was out over my skis. I couldn't do that. So you could have stopped in and just been sad. Did you fight through that? Did you experience that? Do you still think about that? But tell us a little bit about this idea of sadness.
Wow. Wow, Sam.
This is the last question I have. I'm saving it up for you. So,
Well, I think for me, sadness is this sort of pervasive thing that happens, because you're right, like, things don't always pan out the way that you want them to. And the entrepreneurial journey can be very lonely, because as you're building something, a lot of times you're in isolation, because you're trying to for me, I need to get quiet, and I need to hone in on what it is that I'm trying to do, and I need to limit my distractions. And so I have a tendency to become extremely introverted, and I kind of cut out the world. And sometimes I've pushed away friends and people who just don't understand what this journey is like and how sacrificial it is. And the people that know me, that love me, that care about me, they know that I'll come back around. But some people just don't hang in there with you. They don't stick in there with you. So that is part of what makes me sad sometimes. The other thing is that I'm a visionary and a dreamer. I can imagine, like, I have a very active imagination, and I have had this since I was a kid. I always see what is possible, even when people say something is impossible. And I love big. Like, I give myself 100% to the things that I do. Sometimes to a point that it's very OCD, and it can rub people the wrong way. And and it's not that I'm trying to control situations, but I'm so invested in what I'm doing that it's hard for me sometimes to surrender control and to give up that control and to trust other people. And sometimes to the point where people are like, are you trying to micromanage me? And I'm like, I'm really not. I'm really not. And that really stems from fear, and the fear of failing at something that you are putting money into or your time into, and to not see it succeed in the way that you thought it could succeed. It's a hard thing to have to bear. But what keeps me going is, people like you, Sam, honestly, being able to just talk to people, Frederick, you know what I'm saying? Like my friends, Peter, Erica, people who I surround myself with that also not only encourage me, but inspire me. People who've been through it, go through it, understand what it's like, and being vulnerable, being able to be vulnerable and say, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know. I really don't know what being a farmer really means right now. I'm still learning. I know it takes a lot of time, energy, and dedication, and I'm committed to that. But I'm still learning, and it's ever unfolding, and I'm ever, growing and evolving with this experience. So I love learning. I love it. I love it. It's an adventure. It's a journey. And so I'm always ready to see what's on the other side. And so that's what keeps me in this, is that I know that there's another side to this. And then I get to celebrate it when we do get to the other side.
What questions do you have for Tonya? Yes, Frederick.
Yeah, I got a question. Having been able to either be in the passenger seat, front or back, since 2019, and you've said it, and hopefully this like piggybacks off of what Sam just asked about how do you know when to pivot? Because it's a journey, right? Like if you listen to her story and multiple roles, things she's done, when do you know it's time to, not keep focusing on what I'm focusing on and getting comfortable that this unknown that now has been presented in front? What do you go through to know it's time to jump? Like now is the time. Yeah, like.
That's a good question. I think when I start to lose my joy, like when I become disenchanted, and it's not that I just jump ship every time that happens, because you do go through periods when you're just like, I don't like this. It's the same as marriage. I love you, but I don't like you right now. And anybody in here who's dating, and even if you're dating somebody, you don't always like them. And so, but when it becomes more of a, I don't like you, and I really don't enjoy this anymore, then that's the time for me to pivot. And I always believe that there's not one thing you're meant to be doing your whole life. I mean, if I was put on this planet to just do one thing and that's what I'm meant to be doing and I'm stuck doing it, and even though I don't enjoy it, I'm just gonna do it because it's what's been done and that's how it's been done before me, then I don't think that I couldn't exist like that. So I think for me, it's just that simple. It's like, I'll do it and keep trying this and keep going down this, and I'll do it every day until I just stop wanting to do it, And there's a point when I think every entrepreneur gets to that place where they're like, this is not for me anymore, and that's okay. You can make that decision.
Yep.
Similar to that, not so much about leaving something, but going to something new. How do you balance the sort of introspective time, where you're planning, you're thinking carefully through things, making sure you're thorough in all the details so something doesn't surprise you, cause issue, balancing that with getting your hands dirty, talking to people, saying, I'll figure it out on the way. What kinds of experience between those two?
I think the introspective part of me that kind of needs to retreat to kind of get quiet and hear from myself and my spirit about what it is that I want to do is my guide, but I also I'm not afraid to just do something or start something, even though I don't have it all figured out. Like, I don't have this whole farming thing figured out. I wrote a plan, I put a plan together, but that was 2 weeks. You know, it took me 2 weeks to do that. I had to think through things pretty quickly. And then I got the money. I'm like, oh, I really have to execute on this. Oh, yeah. So I think that I just have decided that life is not worth living for me if there's no risk involved. And so I'm willing to just step out there. And you know what happens when you do that? You are going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up. You're going to not get it right 100% of the time. But I keep telling myself that that's okay, that I don't have to be perfect, and things don't have to be perfect for me to start. You know what I mean? And because people get in a position of paralysis by trying to get everything, every little detail figured out. When in the reality of it, you won't have everything figured out, regardless if you have a great plan, because life happens, and you can't always predict what is going to happen or the outcome of those things. And so you just have to allow yourself to surrender and let go of trying to control everything, and just allow yourself to just take the risk and move forward despite having it all figured out.
Let's do one more question. Yep.
Hi, everyone. This has been a great conversation. My name is Wendy Cole, women founders, CEO of Career Drivers, who help corporations amplify their career plan, brand new storytelling, and retaining talent. Tonya, thank you for your leadership. You know, I told you today, and what everything you do. I love your story. I know that you are no stranger to being the only in the room, whether it's the only woman or the only Black woman in the room. And I know that you personally are very intentional about amplifying the work of women entrepreneurs, amplifying and supporting women of color. And so in a current environment where just this week, I'm very relaxed because it's been a stressful week. Or anyone that works in the DEI space with the Fearless Fund and Appellate Court Judge and Entrepreneurial organization, I provide grant funding for women of color. The appellate judge just blocked their ability to do that. They will have downstream implications on the very intentional and structural unraveling of inclusion and equity work. So lots going on in that space. Given our current environment where that is happening, regardless of your political persuasion, the facts are that that's actually happening, it's not new. How do you personally, as a leader, still make space? And I've checked out one of my photos that is intentionality behind your cultivation of community with that. How do you still make space for the work of ensuring that everyone is included, that women are included, that founders of color are included in the work that you're doing now?
You know, I think it's the spaces that I put myself in. And I think inclusion for me means if there are no people that look like me in those spaces, then I got to make myself comfortable in those spaces as well. So in the farming, you know, in this farming world that I'm in now, the most prominent, you know, characters in this space are white males. And so a lot of the money and the funding that have come through from the USDA to a lot of farms and farmers has gone primarily to white males. And so when I've decided that I wanted to enter into this space, I knew that it was not just about me, but it was about the generations and the people that were coming up after me who are new and beginning farmers. I'm a complete beginner to farming. So I was like, how do we increase access for these individuals? And you know, one is land, so providing opportunities for people to actually farm on our land. And the second thing is capital. So we have workshops that are free for people to come and take, because this grant affords me the opportunity to be able to do that. And that was very intentional for me, because I knew that one of the the biggest push from the USDA now is how do we get more young people, women, and involved, and people of color involved in farming. Well, it has to take people like me coming up and saying, I'm willing to farm, and I'm willing to teach people. And farming is when people think about that, they simply think about it as hands in the dirt. And I think that's a very important component of it, but there's so many different industries that touch on agriculture that we don't necessarily think about, you know, and so really exposing young people to information that's correct about farming, the careers that they can get involved with that are related to farming, and being a voice doing events like this where we are sharing our stories and celebrating our stories and talking about people who are in the space that you may not necessarily know. So like there's Black Farmers Network, which is a really powerful networking website that you can go to learn about other Black and brown people in the farming space. So, and hosting events where people can come and learn about us and about the things that we're doing as well. So I'm always thinking about that. I'm always trying to figure out ways to be creative and not put myself in a box. I try to live out of the boundaries of what society says we should or should not be doing. And being an example for other people, I think, is the greatest thing that you could be, in terms of being a role model, because that gives other people the ability to see you and to know that, hey, if it's possible for her to do it, then it's possible for me to do it as well.
Thank you. Join me in thanking Tonya today for being here. We had coffee, I think in 21, 22, you're like, I'm gonna go do a farm. And I was like, don't, that makes no sense.
I gotta tell them what you really said.
Yeah, no, I think Mike works anymore.
Hello? Oh, I turned it off. So I sat down with Sam, because I don't know, I just always want to go to the people who are gonna tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. I laid it out to him. I said, this is what I want to do. He looked at me. And then I told him my plan. He's like, if you didn't tell me you had done all that stuff, I would be like, no, do not do it. Because I came to him and I had a plan in place, and I had talked to a bunch of people, and I gave him the rundown, and he was like, okay. And I don't know, what do you think about where I am now? Like, you said that to me then. What do you think about it?
I've never been happier to be more wrong. So I'm glad to see where things are and that I was wrong. Yeah, you're exactly right, because I heard it and I was like, you're crazy. Like, I don't know why anyone would do this, especially you.
Yeah.
Especially the recent success that you had. And but anyway, now I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders and fans. So it's awesome to see. But thank you for joining. You're going to stick around and talk to folks after, which is awesome. Again, ec.co/apply if you're interested in in-flight, ec.co/careers. We have 2 open positions. Sign up for our newsletter. Please give us feedback on today's event as well. Thank you for braving the parking garage fiasco of June 2024. We'll make sure it gets fixed. But again, grab a drink on your way out or come have a chat. Yeah. Well,
can I ask
what do
a
you got?
request? Because I told everyone that from Better Than Booze, that I would get, if you could open the box and take a can out, can I get you all, unless you have a job that this you can't do this, but it's legal. I promise
we'll get a
you,
big
it's
photo?
legal.
Yeah. Grab a can. Let's come get a big group photo.
And can we like turn around and everybody hold
Do
it up?
selfie style? Yeah. Ben, get it.
Yeah.
Everybody come up, grab a can, get to the front. We'll take a photo. You can eat more cereal as well and chat with Tonya after.